They waved off the one rule that keeps people alive out there, and every one of them was already dead. They just didn't know it yet. Let's start with a man named Carlos Luna, July 7th, 2024. Pilanesberg National Park, South Africa. Carlos Luna was 43 from Zaragoza, Spain, on a private safari with his fiancée and 2 friends. He wasn't a novice tourist stumbling into danger blind. He'd signed the same waiver every visitor signs at the gate, the one that spells out exactly what wild animal means. He knew the rule. He got out of the vehicle anyway. The herd included 3 calves feeding a short distance from the road, and Luna decided he wanted a closer photo than the one he could get through a window. He believed a browsing elephant was a calm elephant. That belief has a name in the park's own safety language. The animals will not fear you inside a vehicle, and the moment you step out, you become exactly what they're built to react to. A threat standing in the open, on foot, close to their young. I want to stop here for a second because this is the detail that matters. This wasn't one person's judgment call made in isolation. Luna's fiancé and his 2 friends told him not to go. Occupants in 2 other vehicles parked at the same sighting told him not to go. Multiple separate people, strangers to each other, arrived independently at the same warning. He heard all of it and walked toward the herd anyway, camera raised. An African elephant cow can weigh over 3 kilograms, run in short bursts faster than a man can sprint, and identify a threat to her calf in less than a second. A matriarch doesn't need to be provoked by touch. Proximity alone reads his intent. The cow charged, Luna ran. He did not get far enough. Officials say the elephant caught him, and the rest of the herd joined in him, the calf's mother, then the others, trampling him where he fell. He was taken to hospital and pronounced dead from his injuries. Here's the detail that makes this different from a random accident. After it was over, the herd moved off calmly, without so much as a threatening move toward any of the 3 vehicles still parked at the sighting. The same vehicles whose occupants had just spent several minutes trying to stop him. The elephants weren't hunting people that afternoon. They reacted to exactly one person who put himself in range. No footage of the attack itself has been made public. Park officials asked witnesses directly not to circulate any images or video, citing the family's privacy, the same request parks make almost every time this happens. And it's why you will never see the moment itself in a video like this one, only what came before and after it. The elephants were never punished, never removed, never even formally identified as dangerous. There was nothing to punish. They did what elephants with calves do to something that gets too close. The park's only response was the same one it gives every time. A reminder again that the rule about staying in the vehicle isn't a suggestion. 4 separate people warned Carlos Luna in the same 5 minutes. He is dead because a photograph felt worth more than 4 strangers agreeing on the same thing at once. Quick thing before we keep going. We're closing in on 1,000 subscribers on this channel. When we hit it, we're giving away a $100 Amazon gift card to one random subscriber. No entry form, no comment required, nothing to do except already be subscribed the moment we cross the mark. We'll reach out directly. Back to the story. Luna ignored 4 voices telling him the same thing. The next case is worse in a different way. Because the warning that could have saved her was real was given in time, and she never understood a single word of it. The location and exact date in this next case are withheld from the public record by court order, standard practice, and a settled wrongful death claim. What follows comes directly from the case file filed against the tour company. 5 women were taken out on a late afternoon walking excursion on a peninsula, searching specifically for rhinoceros. 2 guides led the group. One Caucasian guide the touring company had marketed as the group's protection, unarmed on this leg of the walk, and one native guide carrying an old rifle. The women believed, because the travel agency had told them so, that guided meant protected. What they were not told is that this specific stretch of peninsula was known in the industry as a place where guests should not be led on foot at all. The terrain left no way out if something went wrong. The guide spotted the rhino before the group did. It charged. The native guide shouted a warning in his own language to 5 women who did not speak it. There was no time for a translation, and by the time the meaning could have registered as anything, it was already happening. He turned and climbed a tree. He tried to fire his rifle at the charging animal. It did not discharge. A rhinoceros can weigh over 300 kilograms and reach speeds above 45 kilometers an hour in a straight charge, with a keratin horn built to gore, not to warn. There was no fence, no vehicle, no second option once it committed to the charge. The rhino reached the group and gored one of the women through the stomach. The other 4 ran. She could not. Her husband, who was part of the group, carried her back toward the camp, miles from any medical care, and she died in his arms before they arrived. The lawsuit that followed didn't blame her for anything. It blamed the operators for 2 specific choices: leading tourists onto terrain with no line of retreat and pairing an unarmed guide with a native guide whose only warning came in a language half the group couldn't use. A jury or settlement agreement later found the company liable. The case resolved for $950, and the finding stated plainly that this walk should never have been offered the way it was sold. There was no footage. There was never a camera on this walk. The entire incident exists only in witness statements, a coroner's finding, and a court record. Nobody insulted anybody on that peninsula. She never got the chance to ignore the warning, because the warning arrived in a language that couldn't reach her before the horn did. That's arguably worse than defiance. A woman who did everything asked of her, killed by a gap no rule book accounted for. She trusted a system that had already failed her before she ever stepped onto the sand. The next woman trusted her own government's account of what happened to her, and even that account doesn't agree with itself. June 19, 2024. Livingstone, Zambia, near the Maramba Cultural Bridge. A stretch of road where elephant herds cross often enough that traffic jams from wildlife sightings are considered routine. Juliana Glade Tourneau was 64 from New Mexico, part of a small tour group whose vehicle had stopped in traffic caused by a herd near the bridge. Zambia's Southern Province Police Commissioner later confirmed the basic facts. At around 5:50 in the evening, an elephant in that herd attacked, and Tourneau did not survive. Here is where the story splits into two versions that were never reconciled. The police's initial account said the elephant reached into the stopped vehicle, physically pulled Tourneau out, and trampled her. An attack originating from an animal on a road against a person still inside her vehicle, doing everything by the book. The Livingstone Tourism Association disputed that account almost immediately. Their statement said the group had left the vehicle, a direct breach of national park regulations, and that an elephant reaching into a closed vehicle to extract a passenger had, in their words, never been documented anywhere in Africa or Asia. Two institutions, both with access to the same scene, described two incompatible versions of how she ended up in the animal's path. That disagreement was never publicly resolved. No follow-up correction, no joint statement, no updated official finding. An elephant that decides a stopped vehicle in traffic represents a threat doesn't need much. An unexpected motion, a raised phone, a door that opens at the wrong second. Whatever triggered this one, it closed the distance from a mildly patient herd on a bridge to a fatal charge in less time than it takes to read this sentence. Tourneau died at the scene. It was at the time the second American tourist killed by an elephant in Zambia that same year. There is no footage of the moment itself in public circulation from either side of the dispute, which is itself part of the problem. Two organizations built two different narratives from the same missing 5 seconds, and neither one has film to settle it. We may never know if Juliana Glade Tourneau broke a rule or followed every one of them. What we know is that the two institutions responsible for telling her family the truth couldn't agree on it themselves. And somewhere in that gap between two official accounts, a woman is dead either way. The last case doesn't have any dispute attached to it at all. Everyone agrees on exactly what he did, right down to the plate of food he left on the table to go do it. Kulalu Ranch, Kenya's coastal region. Swara Camp, a tented lodge built specifically around wildlife encounters at a nearby watering hole. An Italian tourist, 66 years old, was having breakfast with his wife inside their tent when he spotted an elephant at the watering hole through the canvas. He got up mid-meal, camera in hand, and left the tent to get a better photograph. His wife stayed behind. He'd been told, like every guest at the camp, to keep his distance from animals at the watering hole. The same rule that exists at every lodge built around a water source because water draws animals whose tolerance for a nearby human changes by the hour. He believed decades of life experience made him an exception to a rule written for tourists in general, not for a 66-year-old who'd presumably seen wildlife before. That belief doesn't scale the way people think it does. An elephant doesn't recognize confidence or age or travel history. It recognizes distance, and the man kept closing his. He approached to get his photograph. According to the local police chief, in his own words, the man provoked the elephant simply by getting too close, and it charged toward him. The attack caused serious injuries to his left leg. He made it back to the camp. He did not die on the spot at the water's edge, the way most of these cases end. He died at the camp itself from those injuries, with his wife present. That detail is the one that stays with you. He survived the actual charge. He had time between the attack and the end, time in which the outcome was still technically undecided, and it slipped away anyway. Sometimes the margin between living and not living isn't the attack. It's everything that happens in the minutes after it. He and his wife had been scheduled to fly home within the month, their visas due to expire. A trip with an end date already picked out, cut short by a walk to the water that his own breakfast interrupted. There is no footage of this one either. No camera was running, no witness beyond his wife and the camp staff who responded. What exists is a police statement. and a plate of breakfast that went cold on a table inside a tent he never made it back to. 4 warnings from 4 different sources. Strangers, a guide who couldn't be understood, 2 competing government accounts, and a rule printed on a camp welcome sheet. None of it mattered in the specific second each of them decided it didn't apply to them. Somewhere right now, at a sighting exactly like these, someone is being told the same thing by someone who knows better, and deciding quietly that this time it doesn't count.